Okay, you're good.
Hi guys, welcome to our third pen and ink video. Today we'll be practicing how to draw a tree. So before we get started, let's just say a quick prayer. Thank you, Lord, for this time that we have to come together and to be creative, Father, that you are the one who gives us these gifts of creativity. And I just thank you, Lord, to help us to learn to grow in more in you and more in the art that you have poured into us, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So is there anybody else in here with us today, John? I see Gianna. Are we waiting for anybody else before we get started?
We're not waiting for anybody else. We have Lucy and Abby with us.
Lucy and Abby, okay. All right, so I'm going to turn my camera around so you guys can see my reference that I am drawing from. John, let me know when you can see it well. Can you see that okay, John?
That's pretty good. Yeah, tilt it down a little bit. That's good.
Okay. All right, so for everybody who's drawing with us today, that is the reference that I drew from in order to draw our tree, just so you have a visual. And this is how I inked it the other day. So let's start. We're gonna need a pencil today. So you're gonna need a pencil. You're going to need a pen of some sort. I think I'm gonna be sticking with the lay pen and maybe a Micron. So grab your pen, grab a pencil, and you'll need some paper. All right, so we're gonna have to start off by drawing a little bit first. And we're going to break this down into very sort of large, chunky shapes. So if any of you have taken drawing with me before, you'll notice that a lot of times I will do large, chunky shapes just to get the spacing right. And then we'll go ahead and draw, more detail in it as we go along. So if you look at the reference, there are four sort of like bubbles. You have a big one at the top, a little one in the middle, then you have another third one on the left, and then a smaller one towards the bottom right. So what I'm going to do with my pencil now is I'm going to draw three sort of ovals that sort of represent the shapes that I've got going on. There's this little guy over here. Then there's this other medium one right about here. And then this one sits, there's a little bit of a gap there, so right about, he comes down about there. So you should have little bubbles on your paper. I've got one big bubble, small one, medium one, and then maybe medium small. So 4 bubbles, that's my start. Now what I'm gonna start doing is actually creating a little bit of the shapes for my bubbles so they turn into a little bit more of a tree. So a good thing about nature, foliage, bushes, trees, it does not have to be identical. So if your tree gets a little long on one side or a little bit poofy on another side, it's okay. It is not the end of the world. It just means your tree is going to have a slightly different shape. That's totally okay. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how I begin a sketch for doing a pen and ink. I do not draw any hard lines. You'll notice that consistency through all of my tutorial videos.
Anna, can you hold on 1 second? We're going to have somebody else join here.
Oh, sure.
Hold on 1 second.
And I didn't tell them to get a pencil, so they might need to all go get pencils.
Oh, okay.
Hi, Macy.
Macy's on Facebook.
Hi, Macy. If you're just catching up, we're going to be needing a paper, pencil, and a pen of your choice. And we've just started by drawing bubbles. We're just in the bubble phase. So if you look at the tree reference that John has up, I'm sort of mapping out where the large tree shapes are, and there's 4 of them. So I just did large bubbles to kind of indicate where I'm going to put them. So that's just where we're at right now. And we're all still staying with pencil, no pen yet.
I think.
Are we good? You want me to wait a little longer?
Just one more second.
Okay. Abby and Lucy and Gianna, how are you guys doing so far?
Good.
Good. You have your bubbles?
Good. Yep.
Good.
And Soleil joined us today.
Oh, Soleil, hi. Same thing for you, hun. We just need paper, pencil, and a pen of your choice.
I already got my bubbles. All good.
Awesome.
So Anna, I have a question.
Yes.
When you mean no hard lines, do you still want us to draw the outline of it just very lightly?
Yes. So what I mean by no hard lines, whenever you're doing sketches for anything, anything, but in this case with the pen, since it has so many little in and outs, little tiny in and outs for the foliage, if you draw a hard line for that oval, that is going to be a bear to erase. So that's what I mean by no hard lines with the pencil. It's just really, really light so that you can easily go back and erase it after you've inked everything. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, is everyone ready for me to continue or?
Yes.
Yep, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So all of you guys should have your bubbles. So I think actually I was gonna start by doing the little in and outs of the bush, but I think I'm gonna pause with that really quick. And we're gonna talk about the tree trunk. So if you draw a full tree trunk even through your bubbles, that's perfectly fine. If that helps you to make sure that our branches are attaching to each other. What I don't want to have happen is if you have this giant bubble up here, and then you have another bubble down here, and there's supposed to be a branch that goes from here down to the bottom, but then there's this, like they don't connect because there's a really big, I don't know, it seems like it had to be really curvy in order to make that match. That's the only reason I would have you draw inside your bubbles with your tree branch if you can't sort of imagine where the tree branches would all be connecting with each other. So I'm going to start up at the top at this top bubble, and I'm just going to very lightly sort of indicate where I want my tree trunk to go. So I think I want a really big one right here in the front. It sits on top of this little baby. And then this bubble down here on the bottom right, I don't see the tree trunk, but it pops out again at the bottom. So I'm just going to sort of come down here and make sure it's sort of lined up. I'm imagining that it's lined up, and I'll continue the tree trunk underneath. Make sure a trick about the tree and the tree trunks, it needs to be progressively getting wider as either you come down the tree trunk, or if you're doing branches, it should be thinner at the edge or the tip of the branch, and it gets thicker and wider as it comes towards the trunk. You don't ever want to have a tree branch be really thick on the outside and then it gets itty bitty as it comes right next to the tree trunk. Okay, so I did this main big one. Now, if you guys look at your reference, there is a tree branch coming from this little, I guess that'd be the third bubble, connecting to the main trunk. I'm going to just sort of draw myself a little bit of a tree trunk. I'm giving my tree trunk lots of little, I don't know, in and out and curves. You don't have to make tree trunks perfectly straight. So when I see a lot of people start their tree branches, they're like dead straight all the time. You don't need to do that. You can make little bumps, little tiny curves. Do something interesting to your tree branch so it's not perfectly straight.
Miss Hannah, can you switch it so that the tree reference is active speaker button so I can have a bigger visual of it? Because it's really tiny on my screen and I can't see the branches.
Sure, Mr. John can change the screen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take a look at it real quick while I draw a little bit more of my tree branch. I think as we go along would be really good is that if we email these references to you guys so that as we're working on the projects together, you have a printout. Okay, so I'm not going to go any further before we start working on the foliage of our tree. So if you guys are ready, we're going to take a quick look at how I begin drawing the foliage of my tree. And then we can switch back to the main video or the main reference photo, and you can take a look at that. And you can make this a little bit of your own. So even though I'm going to start this, I want you to just go at it yourself for a little while and see how you're going to do your shapes. So if you looked at my previous picture that I've done, I have all these little tiny little in and outs, and I didn't even ink it fully, like fully connected all the time. And so I even do that with my drawing. So when I come in here and draw, I'm gonna start at the top. There's these little humps once in a while, and I'm doing sort of broken lines because I want there to be little in and outs of my bush. And sometimes I'm making them long, sometimes they're short. Do you see, I'm not always connecting the lines. Sometimes they're kind of broken. Let me scoot that down. See how sometimes they're kind of a little broken. They're not always full. So then I'll have Mr. John change the feed again, and I want you to look at the reference, and I want you to start outlining your top bubble and giving it some foliage shapes. Like I said, this is not a right or a wrong, you guys. Thankfully, trees, you know, Bob Ross would be like happy little trees. They do not have to be perfect to the reference. It's kind of one of the reasons I like doing bushes or trees. Perfection is not needed. Now, as long as it doesn't, remember I told you guys about the tree trunk situation where if your tree trunk gets too skinny at the bottom, your tree would fall over, or if your branches were wide as they go out from your main tree, but then got really skinny as it came to the trunk. Things like that matter. But other than that, you kind of have a lot of freedom with it. Also, you guys, have you looked at the weather? It is supposed to be really nice for the next few days, I think like the whole week. You guys should take it upon yourselves this week to at least look out your window, or if you're able to go outside in your yard. And if you have any trees or bushes, doesn't have to be trees, I want you guys to really be looking at your trees and trying to see the different shapes and shadows that they give. Okay, I might change my top bubble tree. I sort of started the sketch with it, but I think I might change it. But I'll have you take a look, because I'm going to move on to the other two, the baby one and then the third bubble. Okay, so now what I'm looking at is when we're looking at the reference, there's kind of this nice space between the bottom of this first bubble and then the second and the third one. So I know this is about where I want the little poof to be. And I'm doing the same thing I did in the top. I'm kind of doing little in and outs. This guy goes in front of my tree trunk right here. And then there's this little baby back here. How's everyone doing so far?
Good.
I'm running a little behind, but I'm doing good.
I think I'm doing pretty good.
I'm doing
Same.
pretty good.
Good.
Same,
Is it
I'm a
making
little
sense
behind.
so far?
Yeah.
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 I'm a little behind too.
Okay, well, I'll slow down in just a second and then we'll wait for everyone to catch up. Remember I told you I think I might have to go back up to the top shape, and I might want to change mine a little bit. So maybe that will help eat up some time. Mr. John, is this something that is easily done on a digital platform?
I think you could probably do it. Yeah, pretty I think I could probably keep up with you if I wasn't going back and forth with the reference, but
Oh, sure. No, I was just curious because if we have somebody who wants to do a digital form,
oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah. So while you girls are, sorry, what was that?
Oh, sorry, I'm talking to my sister. She's wearing
Oh.
a towel like a skirt. She's painting a fence. So
Okay, so I'm reshaping my tree a little bit. So you girls just keep working and let me know when you feel like you've caught up a little bit, and I'll continue on with the branches and such. And I won't do any shading until you guys are ready.
So we do this to all of them?
The little in and outs,
Yeah.
yes. All the bubbles need to have their little in and outs to them. Macy, how are you doing? Okay. How are we girls doing? Have we done all the bubbles?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think I did all of them.
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I'm gonna do a little bit of I'll have you look at mine really quick, and then I'll have Mr. John put it back on the reference because we're gonna talk about the shading, the shapes for how I did the shading. So what I liked about this picture is, do you see how I've broken it down to, it's extremely simple, right? You have light and you have shadow. There's not even really any foliage to speak of. It's just that there is light and there's shadow. It's us working on our blocky shapes for where to indicate the shadow, right? Girls following me so far?
She's doing sorta good.
Yeah.
Sort of? Okay.
Yeah.
So when we go back to the reference photo, here's what I want to have you guys do with your pencil still. We're going to start at the top bubble, and I want you to mark out where you see the shadows. Kind of just like this. See, I'm just sort of marking with my pencil where the shadow shape is. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah,
Kind of.
are we supposed to be following the reference?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna switch back to the reference. And so you'll be able to look at it. So you see lots of those shadows. It's really simple. There's really one big line running through the reference photo.
So how are we supposed to mark it out? Are we do we
With
fill
pencil.
it in with pencil? Fill it in with
Nope,
pencil?
no filling in. You just mark where the line goes.
Oh, okay.
Yep, you're just making a line for yourself to indicate. So that's kind of what I did when I did this one. I just marked with my pencil where I was going to stop with my pen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's a couple little ones. There's this little baby mark at the top corner, the left corner is this little baby here. There's another little baby clump over here.
Ready, Rip?
I'll leave my picture there for a second so you guys can see it. I had this giant bubble, but I kind of marked it out. There's this little clump that pokes out here, and underneath of it is where my tree trunk and a little branch pops out from. So there's this little clump of leaves, if you will. And there's a little bit of shadow over here too. So I marked with my pencil where that goes. Making sense so far, girls?
Yeah, I guess, but I
Yeah.
can't see the reference.
Okay, we'll keep flipping back and forth. I'm going to have Mr. John flip it and stay there for a little while. I'm going to mark out on my picture all the shadows, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it again on my picture when you guys feel like you've done most of them. I'm working on the little baby. The little baby one is really easy. There's one giant shadow running through almost the middle. It's a little higher than the middle. What I'm doing with my pencil, girls, is giving myself like a roadmap. I need to know where to go because once you've inked it, that's it, right? It's very permanent. So I'm just marking for myself with pencil because maybe I don't like it. Maybe I don't like where I put it. And if I did it in pencil, I can erase it and do it again. How many of you guys were able or had time to practice some more pen and ink techniques yesterday? Put you on the spot here.
I just joined.
That's Caleb. Caleb's in there now.
Oh, Caleb. Hi, Caleb. How you girls doing with your outline of your shadows?
Good.
Good. Which bubble are you guys on? Are you on 3 or 4 yet?
I
Like on
am
this
finishing the
middleish
last
one.
one.
Sounds like most of you are almost
middle
there.
one.
I'm on the last one.
You're on the last one. Very good.
Do you want us to mark out the shadows on the branches too?
If that helps you, yes. I say the branches for me were pretty easy. I didn't do that. But here's what I always tell all of my students with pen and ink. Mark out as much information as you need to feel comfortable before you ink. If you feel uncomfortable freehanding it in pen, by all means, put a pencil mark where you want it. I didn't, but that's because I'm comfortable at this point not doing that. Does that answer your question pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right,
Yeah.
girls, how are we doing?
And I wanted to tell Liberty and Macy that if they wanted to join the Zoom, so they could ask questions, that Gia sent a link to Facebook Messenger. So you guys can check your messages and
Just click on it.
click on it, and it should take you into the meeting.
Yeah, with more the merrier, it'd be nice. Now, does anyone want me to look at their picture before we proceed to inking, or does everyone feel comfortable enough?
You should probably take a look at mine.
Okay, so we'll just go one at a time. I'll take a look at your pictures and we'll see how they look.
Who are we starting with?
How about we start with Lucy and Abby, whomever is drawing. Trying to see with on my phone. I think it looks pretty good. Gosh, I'm gonna have to have like a third laptop so I can look it up on a laptop. That's good. Okay, and is that Lucy or Abby?
This is
The
the
one with
The
the
one or the younger one? How about
brown-
that? Older
the
or
one,
younger?
the older one.
Older one. Okay, that looks nice. Good. Who are we looking at here?
This is
Younger?
yes.
Okay.
Abby, turn around your picture and show it to the camera.
Good. Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Who else do we have on Zoom?
You have Soleil and me.
Soleil. Okay. So Soleil, how does yours looking?
know what to do. There.
Oh, very nice. I can
Thank
see that one
you.
more clearly somehow than the other ones. Good. That looks nice. That looks like you're ready.
Yep, I'm ready. I'm
Very
stoked.
good. Gianna, how are you doing?
Here it is.
Yeah, see yours I have a harder time seeing too, but that looks good.
Wait, hold on. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Okay, good. I think everyone's ready. Okay, so let's get to the working on, I think we can actually ink most of this and then we'll add in some more branches after we've inked the main body of the tree. So I'll have Mr. John turn the camera on in my picture just for a second, and then we'll go back to the reference photo. So get out the pen, whatever it is that you're going to use. Now, I recap because we did a little bit of pen and ink techniques yesterday. What I'm doing with this tree is just hatching. So a recap for hatching, in case you don't remember or you didn't watch yesterday. Hatching are single lines that go the same direction and need to be about evenly spaced. Okay, just like that. So what I'm going to have you do right now is I'm going to start at the top tree just so you can see it. So here is my little shadow line. So now what I'm do with my pen is I'm going to come over here along the edge.
What
Actually,
size of pen are we using?
so I'm using a 1 right now, a 0.1.
Wow.
I wouldn't go up to a 5 unless your picture was really big. So I would stay with a
Okay.
1, 2, or 3. Yeah, I think they were 3. Is it a 3
Yeah,
or is it
there's
a
a 3.
5? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And 5.
And
I
then
would do-
5.
Okay.
I would do 1, 2, and 3. I wouldn't do 5 or 8. That's a little big.
What about a 0,
Okay.
0, 5?
I always love a 005. I think it's probably one of my favorite pens. Everything takes longer. So if you're going to use a 005, that is perfectly fine. It's just so small that you might need to work longer or put more layers on it. So that's completely up to you. Okay.
Do you mind if I use a ruler?
Not at all, honey. You can always use a ruler. It will take a little bit longer if you use a ruler, but that's perfectly okay. Okay, now I've thought about it. I think I might skip a step. So I think what I have you guys do instead is we're actually going to ink the perimeter first. So I'm going to start going over my lines that I've drawn. See if it'll show up. And I'm going to begin inking the pencil lines that I've done. Now, if you guys can sort of see it on the camera, I don't know. I am not inking 100% the pencil mark. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I didn't really love that. I wish it had been a little bit smaller right there. So then I just make it a little bit smaller or make it a little bit bigger. I am not connecting my lines 100% of the time, but I am just sort of going over roughly where I've drawn out with pencil. I figured it'd be easier if we inked the perimeter first before we shaded the inside.
And we don't ink the shadow line?
Correct. Do not shade the line you drew. That's just a visual so that when you go to ink it, and I'll show you in just a second, you know where to go or where to stop. But correct, do not shade the line.
Can we ink the like tree part, like the trunk?
The tree trunk? Yes.
Yeah, if we get to that part. Okay, awesome.
Yep. Just don't go too far down because we're going to talk about shading the inside of this first section. I keep wanting to
Okay,
call it a
gotcha.
bubble, but at some point I got to stop calling it a bubble.
It's grown into far more than a bubble.
It has spread its wings and become more.
Left the nest.
Now our bubble
This is
and
a
it's a
tree.
tree and a nest. This tree is a lot. All right. How's everybody doing so far?
Good. I think I got the
Great.
the top one done.
Perfect. So now let's start adding a little bit of shading. Is everyone ready?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so when we looked back at this picture that I did earlier, so where I've done the little pencil line for where the shading is, that's where I'm going to begin my lines for the hatching. I did come back later and drew a few really spread apart lines, but we're going to talk about that later. So I'm going to start with my pen. I'm going to start at that pencil line, keeping them as close together as I can, and begin inking in from pencil line down to the bottom of the tree section bubble.
Wow, you're fast.
Thanks. Just don't go too fast for you. I love it. I feel like I hear someone's birds in the background.
Oh, yeah, that's the crow. We want the crows to go away. I stopped feeding the squirrels so they go away because they keep pooping on our deck, but they don't leave. I think they're making a tree, a nest in the tree, not a tree in the nest. That'd be
They're
quite
making
awkward.
a tree. That'd be pretty impressive for a crow to start making a tree.
Yeah.
And slightly frightening.
Yeah.
All right. How's everyone doing with the shading of the first tree?
I'm not done yet.
I have
Okay,
a
that's all
while
right.
to go. Oof.
Every mark I make with this pencil, I shake the whole freaking table. And it's not helping me.
I had to change work tables because one of my, it was actually my husband's drafting table. It was a little bit loose. And so every time I'd go draw, it shook the whole thing as well. So I know I had to change tables. And especially with pen and ink, that's really a problem.
Okay, I've gotta do something to this table. There we go. Good, quick.
All right, while you guys are working on shading it, I'm just gonna start penciling in where I want to put some more branches that are sitting on top of the foliage areas. So if you guys are in that area as well, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just sort of connecting some things together with little branches. Let me know, girls, when you are done with the first section.
I have a question. When we shade, do we go over like some of like the big branches?
Some of the big branches, I mean like this main trunk right here.
Yeah.
I did it separately. So you can do
okay.
it in one unit if you want to. I did not.
Okay.
Now, before we go too much further, I want to just remind you guys that there's these little shapes that came inside of our tree. See how this little baby triangle in the top left corner? There was another little tiny baby on the right corner, this little guy over here. There's just these little extra shapes, and they didn't really attach to anything. They just kind of went from the outside in a little bit. Make sure you guys are putting that in. That just helps it not look quite so much like a solid little ball. How are we doing?
Good.
Good.
Good. Thing.
I was gonna say the good sort of sounded like a maybe.
I'm doing good.
Miss Hannah, with the branches you're drawing that are,
Yep.
hang on, I gotta look closer. The branches you're drawing that are going over, do we ink those
Yes.
right now?
Yep. So if you
Okay.
are done with this base shadow through the tree, yes, there are some little baby branches that are sitting on the top. And so I'm just inking mine in.
Uh-oh.
Now here's where, remember I told you
Uh-oh.
they are thinner as they come further away from the tree, and they will get thicker as they come closer to the tree trunk. So make sure if you are uncomfortable with doing this freehand, please make sure you are penciling it first.
And do we ink like hatch the middle of them as well?
I did, yes.
Okay, I'll do that too.
Now, when they're really, really skinny, I didn't even bother. So see this little guy over here, this little tiny bubble? See this over here? This
yes.
guy is its own sort of
Yes, yes.
separate little piece. It's got some branches that are coming off of it, but they're very skinny. So I didn't even bother trying to hatch them. I just sort of drew a couple little pencil lines over each other and then pen inked them. I didn't even bother hatching them at all because they were so skinny.
Gotcha. Okay.
So if it's really, really skinny, don't bother trying to hatch it. It's just if it gets bigger, then you want to put some hatch marks in there.
Okay.
Now I'm keeping this very sketch-like, so I don't mind if it's just the teeniest bit out of its line or a little bit messy. I kind of like that for what we're doing.
I think I finished the top one.
Perfect. So we are just adding in some little branch lines. If you're following along and waiting, I'm just adding in some branch lines. I'm also going to begin to add in a little bit more hatching where I want a little bit more darkness. So this little guy over here, this tiny little thing off to its side, he's a little darker than the main body of the tree. So I'm going to come back. So to do hatching with additional shading, you need to go back over the same direction that everything else is going, just kind of like that. So I'm coming over in the same direction and I'm adding a little bit more shading on this little guy. You can do the whole thing or not. I opted not to do the whole thing. I just sort of did like a little bit of it, just so it kind of stood out a bit more. Okay. All right. Are you guys ready to start moving on to the little, I don't know, the second bubble?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm
Okay,
ready.
so I'm moving down. So
So-
repeat the same process. Outline first. Now I'm going to ink a little bit of the, I guess it'd be the third section, just because these two touch each other. And the third section sits on the top. So I have to ink it out a little bit just so I can see where it is.
Hi, Liberty.
Hi, Liberty. I'm glad you are joining us today. All right, while I'm waiting for you girls, I'm going to ink in a little bit of my tiny branches that are attaching to this little itty bitty section of the tree. Miss Gia, are you inking with us today?
I am so far behind. I'm not
It's
at,
okay.
I'm still at pencil.
That's okay. I was just curious. So I can't see Facebook. Are there anybody that have any questions on Facebook? Like I think was Macy and Liberty on Facebook?
I don't know what time she said it, but Macy says she's not done yet.
She's not done yet. Uh-oh.
But I don't know where,
Right.
when she made that comment.
If you're still on Macy, is there a question that you have about an area? Let me know.
There's a delay.
I think I must have used a larger pen when I inked this the first time because this is looking different than my first tree. All right. How are you girls doing? I'm moving.
I'm just starting the second one.
You're just starting
I
the second one.
I just finished the second one.
Okay.
Same.
Okay.
Same
All
here.
right. Well, I'm going on without you then. I'm going on to the third one.
You're mean.
I know, I get that a lot. I'll wait for you eventually.
Tortoise and the hare, my
Eventually.
friends. Tortoise and the hare.
Are you saying you're going to finish before me in the long run?
I have no idea. I'm such a slow inker, I guess. I don't know.
That's totally okay.
And you're
Take your time.
fast
I
and
would rather
skilled.
you. I know it's just time. I've been doing this a lot longer than you guys. I would rather you take your time. It's going to look better than if you rush it. So please don't rush it.
Okay,
Mine
I
looks
won't.
a little bit rushed.
Well, maybe do it again when you don't feel the pressure of getting it done in time. Take your time. You know, when I was teaching pen and ink a lot in the classroom settings, and I had them do a lot of homework, I could probably 9 out of 10 times tell when students rushed it, usually the night before, or my favorite was in the car on the way to class. You could always tell. The picture was kind of a hot mess.
Ah.
So take your time. It's okay, especially in the beginning if you guys are not sure yet what you're doing. Taking the time to do it is best. I don't want you to be rushing it.
Anna, Macy,
Yes, sir.
Macy says that was earlier. She's okay now. And she's
Okay.
already on the third one.
Oh, excellent. Good job, Macy. Glad to hear it. Okay, well then I'm going to be inking my third one. I'm not going to wait.
All right, that's it. I gotta move. This table is driving me nuts. I swear, one day there will be. Ouchie!
Got it. Don't hurt yourself there.
Are you okay, Soleil?
She's probably setting herself up again. We'll hear from her probably in a sec.
She might have stubbed her toe.
Yeah, that's the worst.
How are you so fast?
I've been doing it longer than you. That's what I tell all of my students. I've been doing it longer than you've been alive. Well, maybe not all my students, but I know I've done it longer than you.
A few months.
A few months, yes. I've been doing it a few months longer than you. See, sometimes I wish we had music because usually when I'm working in class or working by myself, I have music playing in the background. This might be my opera day if you guys were in my class. I'd make you listen to my opera music, which I know is all your favorite.
Yee.
When I'm doing it art, it kind of stresses me out.
The opera does or music in general?
Opera music.
Opera music. I hear you. That's kind of how I feel about some styles of music. Some classical pieces, they get so like, I don't know, fast paced. It makes me feel like I'm in a hurry or something's about to happen.
Running a marathon.
Running a marathon. Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'm moving on to my fourth.
Me too.
Oh, excellent. Very good. So especially in the beginning phases of your guys' pen and ink work, but frankly, even later, it is not a racing game. I want you guys to be taking your time. It's going to look better in the long run. So please don't feel like you have to rush. Okay, so something I have not done with you guys yet, and some of you may be ready for it. On some of the areas of my tree, if you guys see where my shade mark is, remember I told you in the beginning, Gianna, do not ink a line where you've penciled where the shadow's gonna go?
Yeah.
Now you do, but I didn't tell you in the beginning because I didn't want a hard line. So what I did is very little bit, I'll come up to the top, I haven't done it yet. Where I've done where my pen has stopped, I should say, I'm gonna come back with my pen. I'm just gonna add a little bit once in a while, a little bit of pen. It sort of marks off where that line is a little bit, but I mean a little bit. Can't sort of over accentuate how little. It's just sort of like a little, almost like dots, long dashes, dots, just a little bit. So if you guys are running out of things to do, I want you to go back up into your areas in the tree and add a little bit of a line. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good.
So
if
far,
you're
so good.
done, go ahead. What was your question?
I said so far, so good.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Statement. When you guys are done with the sort of big bubbles being drawn and inked and everything, I'm just going back and I'm beginning now to ink in the branches that connect everything, as well as the little tiny branches that either sit on top or are really dark. So I'm just kind of coming back and I'm filling those in. So if you guys are at that stage, that's what I'm doing right now. And make sure your branches have shape to them. They should not be perfectly straight sticks. No sticks. The good news too, I'm actually adding in more branches than I did last time. So you guys can kind of play around with that. You can add in a few more branches than are actually in the reference, which is kind of fun. All right, you guys, I'm getting close to being done. How is everybody else?
I'm almost done.
In the
Almost
middle
done.
of the third bubble.
Okay. I'm just coming through and adding a little bit more shadow where I want to in some of my trees. You guys are welcome to do the same thing if you think it needs it. Now, the only place that I've done a tiny bit of cross hatching is on my tree trunk. I did do a little bit of cross hatching up here. You guys can do that, or you can stay with hatching. So you don't have to bring in cross hatching into this if you don't want to. I'm going to be a rebel and do it.
You've been found guilty of cross-hatching.
I know. Yep.
So
that's
much
me.
fun though. I don't care.
The cross hatching? I love cross hatching.
I know.
I think it's probably my favorite.
I know. I'll admit I did it even before you said it was okay, just because I loved it so much.
Good. All right, so I'm like in the home stretch, you guys. I'm just gonna come through and erase some of my pencil marks that are still showing up. So if you are all inked, don't do this immediately upon inking, because sometimes while that ink is still a smidgen wet, I have had students go in to erase or just they wiped with their hand, and it will smudge a little bit if you've done it, I mean like freshly, I mean within like 2-3 seconds of inking. So other than that, it should be dry and ready. You go ahead and you can come in with your eraser and erase any of the marks left over from your under sketch. Now, if you guys have colored pencils at home or crayons, you guys can add a little bit of color to this. That was excitement. Now I'm using copy paper, so bear that in mind. If you have copy paper, you might not want to do something super wet, but if you have color crayons, markers, put some color in it. Okay, I'm quite happy with my tree. I think he looks really cute. Now this is our sort of basic, simple tree. We can get more complicated as we go along, but I think this was a good one to start with. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm pretty happy with mine. How is everybody doing? Is there any questions?
I think I'm done.
You're done? Very good.
Same, but it looks
Same,
kind
okay.
of rushed.
Kind of rushed? Well, if you want to, sweetie, I would have you do it again when you feel like you're not so rushed and take some time
Yeah.
with it. Practice is always good. I know I get lots of, I don't know, sighs or eye rolls when I mention doing something over again. You always learn so much if you guys are willing to do something over again. I still do things over again, you guys. Pictures that I've done, you know, many years ago, I will still do again as like a practice sketch or something like that to warm up. I still do it. So it's a good thing to do and not be afraid of doing something over again. You always learn something different. That, and you can see how much you've really grown and changed as an artist. Now, if you guys are done, I want you to sign it. I really haven't talked about that much with the other pictures, but if you're done with your piece, put your name to it. Sign it. If you know cursive, do cursive or print it. Some people do initials. That's always great too.
I think I finished my full thing.
You finished the full thing?
Yeah.
Very good. You even have your dark little branches, like the little babies in there.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Okay. Well, then that's all I've got here for today, you guys. Any questions before we sign out for today? Any Facebook questions that I need to answer?
Macy says that she's very happy.
Oh, good. I'm so glad, Macy. And I know you did pen and ink before, so this probably feels good to get back into a little bit of pen and ink. So I think you guys, tomorrow our schedule is watercolor. So if you guys have any watercolor supplies and you would like to join us for watercolor tomorrow, I think it's 11:30 and 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, John and Gia, but I think tomorrow, 11:30 and 2, we're going to be doing watercolor. So if you guys
Wait.
have your watercolor paints at home, you're going to need them. You'll need some water. So get some kind of like jar, something doesn't fall over too easily, and a brush.
Wait, what?
Was that questions? You guys just talking?
We're just talking. I had to put my
Okay, that's
camera
okay.
on.
So if you girls are interested, we're going to do some watercolor tomorrow, okay?
Okay, is the 11 and the 2 one, are they the same class, just at different times?
No. So the one at 11:30, I think is what is 11 or 11:30. That's just going to be beginning. So we'll be practicing how to do washes, kind of like you girls practiced at the beginning of class, which is always good practice to do again, but that's what we'll be doing the first class. And then the second class in the afternoon, we're actually going to be trying to paint a tree. Does that
I
make
should
sense?
probably-
Yeah.
I should
Who's
probably
that
do
working?
the tree one. Gianna.
Gianna,
Yeah, I
oh,
think-
that's good, Gian.
Doing the 005.
Now, here's what's really cool, you guys. So we just practiced pen on paper today for our tree, right? So if you guys do the watercolor tree tomorrow, we can actually put a little bit of pen over the top if you like. And I actually think pen and watercolor are just so beautiful together. So keep that in mind. If you guys want to do some pen over the top of your watercolor tree, it will look really cool.
I would like that. That sounds cool.
Okay, good. Well, I think that we probably covered all of it. John and Gia, do you have anything else to add before we sign off today?
Just tell them we're gonna stop the recording and then let the kids talk.
Yeah, we're gonna stop the Facebook feed, but we can keep the meeting going in case anybody has
Okay.
any comments here. So
Okay. All right, guys. So we'll be signing off Facebook Live. Thank you guys for joining me today with the pen and ink tree. Join me tomorrow for watercolor. Bye, guys.